Am I emotionally stable? Do all humans have feelings? Why does our soul even need to have emotions? What are emotions anyways? In this video, we're going to be answering these questions and more, like what role emotions play in our psyche, why exactly and how our soul uses our emotions in order to connect, and how at times emotions and feelings can actually be more powerful than our intellect and power of logic. There are two general ways we can develop emotions. One of them, more popular, is we experience something in our day-to-day lives and we either like it or dislike it. And this way we learn that next time we either get closer to it and are drawn to it, or we stay away from that. That's how our human and animalistic temptations and desires are developed, and they later convince our brains to be drawn to them. The second way we can develop emotions is through understanding something and thinking about it. We see that it's good for us and we either start to want it, or we see that it's bad for us and we start to refrain from it. This is how our souls develop interests and emotions to things. First, we think about it and develop it in our minds, and then afterwards that gives birth to emotions, and it makes us be drawn to that specific and particular thing. Our soul's interests are first found in our mind as objective facts, and then they make their way down into our feelings, and only afterwards does that impact our actions. The first way is emotions developed by actions which trigger emotions and then afterwards influence our minds. And the second way is when our minds trigger our feelings and that triggers our actions. Our soul is more concealed within our human feelings, where our temptations don't give much room for objective ideas and purity. By the way, in about 3.5 minutes, we're going to have a twist to the whole narrative, so if it starts getting boring over the next minute or so, don't get too worried about that. So if we want the soul to inspire us and connect with us in our daily lives, we have to spend some more time thinking about its pure ideas and sincere wishes. We can think about the inherent good within being selfless sometimes. And the more we think about this, the more we become open to it and the more we're able to connect to it. But why are emotions so important anyways? Isn't it more important to focus on doing what's right, to make sure we have our actions on par? Why is it so important for us to feel what the soul likes and desires? Why can't we just enjoy ourselves, have fun, and enjoy all the world's temptations it offers, and act nicely and kindly with our surroundings and the people around us? Why is it so important for us to have spiritual and soul-like emotions within us? Well, theoretically, we can do things based off decisions we made, and it's true that many people aren't very emotionally connected. The soul is more than happy to influence just our actions at the very least, as we'll see at the end of the video. But when we bring the soul's inspiration into our hearts, besides for the fact that we become more refined and sincere individuals, we also infuse our action with passion and energy. In other words, when we're interested and excited to do something, it's going to be done in a much better way than when we're not interested and excited. Think of emotions like an engine of a car. If it's a good, strong engine, then we can accelerate efficiently and the car moves appropriately. If it's an old and rusty engine, the car might still be able to get us around, but we'll have to take some extra care to make sure we don't overwork it, and at times it will break down. When interested and enthusiastic about things we do and we're emotionally charged, we can do those things for prolonged periods and still feel energized and happy even after we're done. If we aren't interested, then we can get tired and burnt out quite quickly. Kids are a perfect example of this. They can be running around all day and doing all these fun things, but the second they're asked to do a favor for a parent or a teacher, they can be so uninterested that it looks like they've been carrying a pack of bricks all day. And as adults, we can also find this very applicable in so many ways. This is why it's so beneficial for the soul to conceal itself and enter our emotions. The truth is, though, there's something special about emotions. And although generally we say that the soul requires more concealment in emotions over intellect, at times the soul can reveal itself in our emotions much more than it can in our dry intellect. This is the twist I was talking about in the beginning, and here we go. Now imagine that the soul can tap into that. Now, it's going to be a little hard for her because the key to emotions of the soul is through our mind and intellect. But imagine the soul influences our feelings through our mind and then have those feelings forget about the reason that caused those feelings. Now our emotions can get so invested that they just keep getting stronger and stronger until they just go overboard. This is a really cool phenomenon, and it is a possibility. We can think about pure and holy ideas which influence our emotions so much that they just go beyond the limitations that the brain set forth. You see, our brain needs to make sense of things. So when our brain understands that the infinite and pure soul wants something, it makes sense that we should go for it. The brain accepts that it cannot rationalize and understand the purity and infinity of the soul, and therefore does not try to investigate it any further. But when that sinks into our hearts, and we start to feel for this immense desire of the soul and connect to its ideas and what it wants, and then we realize that what we're feeling right now isn't really the entire emotion of the soul, since the soul is infinite, and the soul's feeling can go on and on. We in our human body are obviously not feeling the entire intensity of the soul's greatness. That can awaken an even greater emotion within us for the soul, to want to connect to the soul. And then when we realize that even that isn't a feeling for the entire soul, we start feeling more and more, and we want to connect even more, and our hearts just keep going and going and going. These feelings break the concealment of the body and allow the soul to shine. What was it that was concealing the soul inside of us? It was our human temptations, which are selfish and care mostly only about themselves. But when these feelings start to connect and want to reach something which is greater than us, and we reach out and we just go and go and go, that breaks through that boundary that we've had and we've put on ourselves and that we've put onto the soul. When we feel we're missing the soul's infinity and there's so much more that we can reach from within her, it just allows her to shine. But the same Kabbalah scriptures which reveal to us this idea also tell us that most people can't necessarily relate and reveal this immense level of spiritual awakening within themselves. Even if we can't develop these feelings, though, we can still contemplate and think about the pure ideas of the soul and understand how they are true and good for us to do. And that is enough to allow the purity of the soul into our actions, so that they're not considered fully selfish actions. Instead, we're doing something good. Obviously, the ideal situation would be for us to be completely emotionally connected and inspired, which brings us to that action. But even if we don't have that, our actions are not considered completely selfish. See you later, and bye-bye for now.